Hey y'all, Coach in the Fight here. Got Stacy with me.
Shalom, everybody.
Actually, this is going to be Stacy's class. I guess I'm going to drive it on the computer over here, but Stacy got something she want to do a class on. What chapter is that, Stacy?
This is chapter 34 of the Third Testament, talking about free will and conscience. Okay, in this chapter, we're learning about free will and about conscience. Okay, I want to start off first by giving the definitions of each. And we'll start by giving the definition of conscious. A conscious or conscious is the judge that has been given to us by the Father to guide us into distinguishing what is good or bad, right or wrong, good or evil. That is our conscience. He allows us to be able to tell the difference between what is right or wrong. So free will is the ability to make that choice without being forced to do it. Okay?
Okay.
So let's go on to verse 1.
It says, "Listen, O disciples, man has as his spiritual gifts freedom of will and a conscience. Everyone at birth has been endowed with virtues and can make use of them. In his spirit is the light of his conscience, but at the same time that the flesh develops, with it passions unfold, the bad inclinations, these being the ones that battle against those virtues."
Okay, so what this is saying is that at birth, each of us are given the spiritual gift of conscience. It's a gift the Father gives us. It's the light that will take us through life because it's given to us at birth, and it will be there at our death as well. So what this verse is saying is that the flesh, as it grows older, it gives into its passions more. It gives into the desires, the bad desires more, and this overwrites our conscience.
Okay, right. I guess let me see. In his spirit is the light of his conscience, but at the same time that the flesh develops, with it passions unfold, the bad inclinations, these beings the ones that the battle against those virtues. So okay, I see what you're saying. As the flesh develops, meaning you're getting older, then comes the passions, then the passions unfold.
Yeah,
okay?
Then the passions, the bad inclinations, the bad desires, because you're being introduced more into the world.
That makes sense.
So
the world starts to take over, and then I guess as you get older and older, you find more passions and stuff that you like, more desires that you like.
Right.
And it's hard to stop you once you got your own money and your own car and your own will to do and achieve stuff. Okay. All right. Good point.
Okay, you want to read number 2 as well?
All right. He says, God permits this because where there is no struggle, there are no merits. And this is what you need in order to ascend along the spiritual path. What would be the merit of the children of God if they did not struggle? What would you do if you lived filled with happiness, as is your wish in this world? Would you expect spiritual progress if you were surrounded by comfort and riches? You will be at a standstill, for merit does not exist where there is no struggle.
Okay, so verse 2 is talking about the struggle that we have here and it's all talking about our conscience. I might veer off and start talking about materialism, but this is basically talking about our conscience. The struggle that we have doing what's right and what's wrong.
Okay.
And he's saying that where there is no struggle, there are no rewards, there are no merits. And you need these merits here so that you can ascend more spiritually.
Well, yeah, in order for us to develop spiritual, or in order for us to evolve spiritually, we have to gain merits in all cases. Like, for instance, if you just want to know stuff,
right,
you have to have merits in order to gain merits. It's probably why Daniel's visions made him sick, because there has to be some type of struggle there.
Yeah, so he's telling us here, where there's no struggle, there's no spiritual evolution. There's no merits to be given.
Right, and so that's why he allows that the older you get, the more bad inclinations that you have. Okay, well, that makes sense. And then he says, what good would it be if, everything down here was good for us? We wouldn't have to struggle at all. Would we still be in pursuit of spiritual progress?
Well, no. Well, because let's take it materialism. Let's talk about, us. When one time, and we're always telling the story about how we were living a full-on materialistic lifestyle, and very seldom did we think about things that of the Father, and less things that are spiritual.
Yeah.
And that's the same way with our conscious. When we are not struggling, we tend to think more materialistic. Okay.
That makes sense.
Number 3.
But do not be confused, for when I speak of conflict, I refer to that which you develop in order to master your weaknesses and passions. Those battles are the only ones which I allow in men, so that they will dominate your egotism and their materialism. In order for the spirit to take its rightful place, illuminated by its conscience. That inner battle I do authorize, but not the one which man use with the desire of exalting themselves, blinded by ambition and weakness.
It's an inner battle. It's an inner battle when you are trying to make the decision to do right or wrong. For some people, more so than others, but if there's something that you really want to do, and your conscience is telling you, this is not right, there's an inner battle. Okay. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so this inner battle, the Father allows to help us to become stronger. I think that's what he's saying in that verse.
Okay, those battles are the only ones which I allow in men, so that they will dominate their egotism and materialism. Talking about the struggle between our conscience and our free will, or...
Yeah, it's the struggle between your conscience and your free will, because your free will is giving you that choice if you want to do it or not. But the conscience is telling you truth.
What's right and what you should be doing.
Yeah, what you should be doing.
Okay.
So it's a struggle, and that struggle helps you to gain merits.
Okay. Because it's hard. Yeah. You have to. And, okay. Makes sense. I mean, we have to remember that we're basically given this body and this lifetime in order to gain merits. We all descended from the place where we're trying to go back to. I mean, before Adam and Eve committed the first sin, they were in those heavenly dwellings, those spiritual, dwellings that we all are trying to get back to. But just like Adam and Eve, they had to come down here and put on a fleshly body and experience what life is like. Then gaining the merits that they need, then they'll be able to go on back to where we kind of came from, back to the spiritual, back to the higher mansions. So it's like kind of like a training ground. People say, what's the meaning of life? Why are we here? It's so that we can learn to be humans. And once we've conquered being humans, then we can go on to learn to be something else, more higher minded spiritual beings. Of course, I don't know what they are, haven't been there yet. But that's what we're doing. We're learning to live under our conscience, We learn to be dominant over our free will and materialism.
Yeah. Okay, number 4.
We already did that. He says that inner battle I do authorize, but not the one which men use with the desire of exalting themselves, blinded by ambition and wickedness.
Okay, so that once again is talking about that inner battle, the struggle to do right or wrong.
I don't know if I understand this, because it's talking about, okay, he allows the battle between the free will and the conscious, but then he says he does not allow this battle that he's talking about here, which men use with the desire of exalting themselves. So, I don't know. All right, well, let's go on then. You want to go to 5?
Let's go on to 5. And, well, let me say that if anyone else, has got a better understanding of that, to just leave a comment about it.
Yeah, let's talk about it in the comments. The spirit fights to achieve its elevation. The spirit fights to achieve its elevation and progress, while the material form gives in at every step to the attractions of the world. Yet the spirit and the material can be harmonized, given to each what legitimately pertains to it. That is what my doctrine teaches.
Okay, so here it's talking about, when it speaks of material form, it's talking about your flesh.
Right.
So it's saying that the spirit fights, he battles to achieve a higher spiritual elevation, while the material form, the body, gives in to materialism at every instance that he can. It can.
Okay, so it's quick to jump over to materialistic stuff.
Yeah, it's quick to jump over to materialistic stuff because it's attracted to that.
Yeah, okay.
But it's saying here that, and you might can further explain this, how they can come into agreement with each other.
Well, yeah, he says it right here that that is what my doctrine teaches. So now what I guess he's talking about is the law and the rules that you find there in Exodus and Leviticus and all of those. By following those, I guess it's safe to say that those rules will help us to build harmony with each other, with the spiritual and the material. And I say that because it's definitely clear that when you break those rules, you break the disharmony between spiritual and material.
Mm-hmm.
You definitely, by breaking the commandments, you definitely, create a disharmony. So I guess the opposite is true too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
When you keep the commandments, then you keep the harmony. Because that's basically what the rules are about, is how to get along with the Father, how to get along with our neighbor, and how to get along with nature, and how to get along with ourselves.
Yeah, material stuff that we can see.
Yeah.
And the conscious is talking about the spirit. So when you put those two together, they can come into agreement and harmonize with each other.
Yeah.
Number 6.
How can you practice my law in every case? By listening to the voice of the conscience, which is the judge of your acts. I do not come to command that which you cannot perform. I come to persuade you that the road to happiness is not a fantasy, that it exists, and the way to travel it is what I am showing you.
So here he's telling us that he does not come to order us to do any of this.
Yeah, we don't have to do it.
Yeah, he's just showing us the way to get where, Cliff? To get to the tower? Will we throw some hermits in here?
Well, yeah. I mean, this is kind of beyond the tower. There's only a certain few that will be in the tower, but this reaches throughout all of humanity, and where all of humanity is going is to those higher mansions. We have to go.
Right.
We have to achieve the higher mansions, whether we're 144 or not. we all are still going to be required to, like we said earlier, learn how to live human, learn how to live with one God, learn how to honor the Sabbath day and how to respect our parents, not steal from one another, how not to covet another man's stuff or another man's wife. All of those different rules there, we have to learn them in order to get to these higher dwelling places. And I think what I'm learning today from this class that you're giving is that it is through the struggles of learning this stuff that actually solidifies it in our beings. Whereas, if it were easy for us, then we may forget the lessons that we're learning. But because they are so hard as far as getting over materialism and learning spiritualism, because some of these lessons are going to be really tough for us, we're never going to forget them.
I think we gave the example the other day of studying in school.
Yeah.
How if it's easy for you to, say for instance, what was a struggle for you in college?
Well, the whole thing was a struggle for me, but what I remember in college was you never wanted to study with the smart guys. We had, I was in engineering school there in Auburn University with some really, really talented and bright guys. And some of them, I remember this one guy, he was a friend, but, I would never study with him because, this was the guy, he was just too smart. He was always talk about how, he's never studied for the test. He always just showed up the morning of the test and got A's and B's on the test. But then when you actually go try to let him teach you something, he couldn't teach you nothing. He understood it and he could answer the questions on the test, but he didn't have enough struggle to actually be able to teach it to somebody else.
He couldn't relate to it.
Yeah, he couldn't relate to the learning aspect of it. But the other guy that was making C's and D's, and studying all week long to make C's and D's, he's the one you actually want to talk to because he can explain some stuff to you, make you understand some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that's what it is here on this life. The people who have it too easy, they ain't struggling as far as these merits are concerned, they ain't going to be able to help you too much.
Yeah, well, remember we just read that about in verse 2 where he says that if your life was filled with comforts and riches, you wouldn't have much spiritual progress.
Right.
So, okay, number
7. You are free to choose the road, but it is my duty as Father to show you the true and shortest road, that which has always been illuminated by the light of the divine beacon that is my love for you. For you are the disciples who thirst always to hear the new words that come to affirm your knowledge and revive your faith.
Okay, once again here he's telling you that it's up to you to choose the road that you want to travel, but it's his duty as Father to try to put you on the right path.
He's still talking about his law and the rules that he laid out for us. There's a lot of people in rejection of those rules, and you don't see anything bad happening to them. Seems like some of those people are more well off than, or materialistically well off than the individual that's studying his word every day. And what he says is them people, they have the choice to do what they want to do, but you have to look at the end results and what's going to happen. You can't just look at how it is right now. You have to look at them 100 years from now. Where are they going to be then? Are they still going to be glad that they're materialistic and taking advantage of the worldly stuff, or are they going to be somehow regretting it, wishing they had have obeyed the law and followed their conscience?
Okay, number 8.
I have placed the conscience in your being so that it can be in the midst of all of your steps. Since the conscience is able to distinguish good from bad and what is just from what is not, with that light you cannot be deceived nor be called ignorant. How could the spiritual follower deceive his brother or try to deceive even himself if he knows the truth?
So what it's saying here is that the conscious since it's there to help you, to guide you into distinguishing good or bad, you can not say that I didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know if that was the right thing or not to do, if that was the right or the wrong thing to do.
So in every instance in our lives, every bad mistake we've ever made, our conscience was there yelling at us, telling us not to do it.
Yeah, because it says that the conscience was there at birth, and he is there during your entire lifespan, and he will be there during at your death. If that happens, that so he's there. It's just that materialism, and we'll study about this a little more later, has clouded.
Okay.
So you can't hear him, but he's there telling you.
So materialism makes it hard to hear the conscience.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to get to that part. Verse 9 says, "Man on earth is a prince to whom my love and my justice gave that title. And the order that he receives from the very beginning was to have dominion over the earth."
Now, I didn't quite understand this one when he's talking about man on earth is a prince to whom my love and my justice gave the title. I know the word prince was used, but I didn't quite understand that one. So.
Okay, let's see. We're going to see. To whom my love and my justice gave that title, and the order that he received from the very beginning was to have dominion over the earth. Man on earth is a prince to whom my love and my justice gave that title. Maybe he gave us the title, maybe he gave man the title of prince, or maybe he gave man the title, maybe he gave the prince the title of man. I don't understand that one either. All right, y'all, comment section, y'all help us out. We students like you are.
Right.
We don't understand everything. We don't try to act like we do. So in the comments, let's work it out. See if y'all can help us to understand some of these verses that we not getting. Ready to go?
Number 10, yes.
"Over to the divine gift of your free will, I put a beacon to illuminate the path of your life, the conscience.
You want to go on to 11?
The freedom to act and the light of the conscience to distinguish good from evil are the two greatest gifts of love that the Father has bequeathed to your spirit. They are in men before birth and after death. The conscience guides men and does not leave their side in moments of desperation, nor in moments of lost reason, nor even in agony, for it is intimately united to the Spirit."
Yeah, the Father has given us these two gifts, the conscience and the freedom of will, to help guide us down here. And sometimes when I'm in a situation, I'll say, "Well, Lord, why don't you just make me do it? Make me do the right thing." But that wouldn't, and he'll further say this in some of the remaining verses, that wouldn't be right for him to make us do something.
Okay, like maybe if you're struggling against eating too much, you want to just take the food away, make it so the food ain't available no more.
Just make it so he wants to give us a choice. He wants to give us
put the food there and see if you'll quit eating it.
Yeah, he wants to give us a choice to see if it's right or wrong.
Well, and that's where that struggle comes in.
Yeah. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it does. But the thing about it, so now what's the difference between the conscious and the spirit? Are they seem to be different, but they seem to be so tightly tied together that you may not be able to tell them apart.
They are tightly tied together, and I was just studying about that, how we are spirit, right?
Yeah,
this is how I'm looking at it like this. We are spirit, and we're given a gift. We're given a companion, which is the conscious. He is there, and I wrote this down,
So now, are animals spiritual beings too?
Yeah, but they don't have a conscience.
That's what I was going to ask next. So that dog I'm looking at out there, he has a spirit, inside of him that has lived before probably and will live again. You know, I think he may jump into some other kind of animal or some weird thing they do. But he doesn't have a conscience at all.
Right. The conscience is given, like I said, as a companion to our spirit to guide that spirit into doing the right thing.
Okay.
Because, and it will further explain this, our spirit, because of materialism, wants to go toward materialism.
Okay.
It's the conscience that keeps it on the right track.
And even though, and so now is conscience and free will, I guess they're not opposites. It says right here, the freedom to act, which is free will, and the light of the conscience are the two greatest gifts.
Yeah.
So they're in there. Okay, I'm trying to understand. So you have us as spiritual beings, which,
right.
you know, I guess everything that has the breath of life in it will be a spiritual being.
Right, right.
And so you have us as you have as spiritual beings. Now, to make us human or to make us different from the rest of the animals, we were given both free will and a conscience.
Right.
Now, I think that dog has free will. I ain't for sure. But, you know, he be doing some stuff. I think he can do whatever he wants. And
yeah.
The only thing stopping him from doing, you know, eating that chicken over there is that he knows that I'm going to come out there and hit him.
Yeah.
So he doesn't have, so I have to be his conscience for him. But he has his own free will. So the thing that makes humans different is that, or from animals, is that we have a conscience.
Yeah.
And I guess what makes us different from angels is that we have free will.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Right down here I wrote, man is a spirit that was given conscience. The judge that helps his spirit distinguish between right and wrong. However, he was also given the choice if he wants to do that right or wrong.
Okay. All right. Makes sense. It's some serious stuff here. 12. The spirit possesses the gift of free will, through which it must earn merit in order to save itself.
Do you want to talk about that? The spirit possesses the gift of free will.
So we're given free will. So it sounds like the free will sounds like that old saying that you give a man enough rope and he'll hang himself. So it sounds like the free will was the rope.
Yeah, it does sound like that, huh?
That we were given this free will just so we can make them be. Now you gonna say so we can make the mistakes, so that we can learn the mistakes and resist the mistakes that are going to get us in trouble, and that by doing so we gain marriage, we gain the knowledge that we need to learn in order to get to the higher mansions. So
this, what I'm learning from this is that in order for us to move, you know, how sometimes you would say,
ladder,
yeah, you used to say that I've jumped another.
Yeah, I've leveled up.
Yeah, I've leveled up on you. So in order for us to level up, go up different levels of understanding, knowledge, you know, this makes revelations, we have to do that by merits.
Yeah, I was going to say, you know, talk about the afterlife, because that's really when you go to the higher mansions. Is after you shed this bodily existence, after you shed this body, you get to go into the higher mansions. But it's even true, you know, while we're in the flesh, we need merits, even for revelations and for, you know, stuff that we, you know, want to learn here on earth, in order to learn certain things. Like I've been studying a lot to do with timing, and a lot to do with, you know, the chronology of the divine plan, the eschatology, as some will call it, or how, you know, some of the prophecies of Daniel and all of that, his timing and how those, you know, years and stuff line out. And, you know, I've been gaining a lot of information, praise the Lord, but it has it's taken a lot of merits to do so. I mean, I'm babysitting, I'm fixing people's plumbing under their houses, I'm praying, you know, and even getting hurt a little bit, got a little bit of illnesses. All of these things work, you know, are give me merits. But I believe that the reason over the last couple of weeks is that have so many opportunities to gain merits is because have so many opportunities to gain these divine revelations that I've been working so hard to get. I think they were necessary. I had to get these merits in order to get that information.
Yeah, things are being revealed to you that you probably have studied before and they didn't make sense or you didn't grasp a hold to them. And now that you have the opportunity to gain merits, you're receiving them.
Well, I think it's more to it than that. I think it's more than just, I think it's also, you know, the Father's waited till now to actually, you know, let us know this stuff. Because there's a lot of people that have studied a lot more harder and longer than I have. And had a whole lot more information than I have. But they weren't able to understand, you know, some of the stuff that I've, you know, come to understand over here in the last couple of weeks. And I believe it's Him turning the switch on and allowing humanity to kind of unlock some of these secrets that, you know, were closed by Daniel and closed by other prophets and stuff. Some of these are being unlocked right now, you know, in 2019, 2020, 2018. But I think even though the door was unlocked, the answers were unlocked, the information was unlocked, it's still going to take a bit of a struggle in order to get in there and get it. It's going to take merits in order to go get it, you know. The door's been open. The door to the store is still open, but it's still going to cost you to get the merchandise.
Right.
And I think the costing is marriage. So that goes for everything. I mean, what does it say? Every revelation comes with, I can't quote it exactly, but every revelation comes with marriage, no matter what it is. No matter if you're trying to figure out what you're going to cook for dinner or, you know, something like that. It's still going to require, if you're going to get that information from Him, it's still going to require merits on your part to get it.
Yeah. Number 13.
Who guides, orients, or counsels the spirit during its free wanderings so that it can distinguish right from wrong and thereby not be lost? The conscious.
So this was what I got from this verse. I got from here that the spirit, as I was saying earlier, is attracted by the things of this world. It wanders.
Okay.
And it's the conscious that pulls it back into spirituality, pulls it back to the Father, and keeps it from wandering and doing things that it shouldn't.
Instead of just letting us completely go crazy.
Right.
And so, but the thing is, but the materialism of the world now is actually steering us away from the conscious, or closing the voice, or making it harder to hear the conscious.
Yeah. The materialism is, I think it's actually steering us away from it. It's steering us away from the Father.
Okay. Well, but thereby steering us from the conscious, because the conscious, from what I understand, is more Him than a lot. I mean, it's he dwells in our conscious or something like that. Did you read that part? Or it's where He lives, or something to do with our conscious. Well, our conscious is a really, really big deal.
Yeah.
You know, and not listening to our conscious is, I believe it's almost equivalent to not listening to Him.
Yeah, because it's something that he gave us. It's like a part of Him that He gave us to guide us.
And make us be like Him.
Yeah.
Make us be like we are supposed to be.
Yeah.
Because like you said earlier, I think you said earlier, maybe I heard you when you were studying for the class, but because the voice of our conscience is so, what's the word, quieted. From what I understand, the voice of our conscience never changed. But over time, humanity has taken on so much materialism that we can't really hear the conscience anymore. Even though it's still there and it's probably just as loud as it's always been, we have all of these other noises around that's distracting us. Well, these noises that are distracting us are materialism.
Yes.
So as man becomes more materialistic, as we're doing right now, we're ramping up the pace of our materialism with the smartphone 12 about to come out and all this kind of stuff. We're ramping up the pace of our materialism, and so this is why man is becoming a lot less dependent on our conscience and are doing so much of this other stuff because nobody's guiding us, orientating us, or counseling us. You know, it's just materialism. It's just
you're using your and it'll talk about this here over in the abuse of free will. You're using your free will and abusing it to do what you want to do.
Okay.
What you really want to do, you're using that free will, that choice that he's given you
to overpower
the conscious and do what you want to do.
So now, am I seeing? Am I like Herman's? You know, he was able to see, you know, spiritual beings. So am I able to see the free will and the conscious standing there as, you know, equal? And I don't want to say opposite, but they're kind of two separate beings in there.
They are, yeah. That's what I pictured it as, two separate beings, giving you a choice, and one telling you choose this way, and the other says either or. Does that make sense?
So now I don't believe plants have spirits. So, and if I'm right, without a conscience, without a spirit, and without free will, we'd be like a tree.
Yeah, this here says like a machine.
We'd be like a machine. If you give us a conscience and no free will and a spirit, we'd be like angels.
Right.
If we were given a spirit and free will and no conscience, we'd be like animals.
But we've been given both.
And there's no way to give us a conscience and free will without giving us a spirit. What would that be?
Well, you have to have the spirit in order to have life. The spirit is...
That's who we are.
Yeah, it's your breath. It's your life. Remember it said the Father breathed into Adam, and he became... spirit. I think he said he became a spirit. He became a living soul. That's what he said. He became a living soul.
Well, you got to remember, Adam's spirit had lived before that. He's already a spiritual being even before he ever came to the garden.
Yeah, that's true.
And he already lived. He already existed. I should say.
Right. Yeah.
But like you was talking about, when the Father blew the breath of life in him, he actually became human at that point.
Right. Yeah. He was already a spirit being.
All right, where are we at?
We are on number 14.
The conscious is the divine spark, a higher light, and is a force to help men not to sin. What merit would there be in men if the conscious had the material strength to force them to remain on the side of good? So,
as we were saying before, the conscious... you wouldn't be able to gain merits if he forced you to do it.
Yeah, the thing about it almost seems powerless. The conscience almost seems powerless because you can't even call on the conscience to make you do right.
I didn't think about that, but that's true.
You can't say, if the conscience is there bearing on you, telling you not to go down that path, you can't, say, okay, conscience will not make me go down that path because your free will is still trying to make you go down that path. All you can do is listen to the conscience and force your free will not to do so.
Yeah, that's why it says that in order to make your conscience stronger, you're going to have to practice and learn how to listen to it and hope that it will overtake your free will.
Okay, where is that in this section too?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yes. Number 15.
I want you to know that merit consists of listening to that voice and persuading yourselves that the voice never lies nor is mistaken in its counsel, and in faithfully obeying its dictates.
So it's saying that the voice, the conscience, the voice of the conscience never lies to you. It is never a mistake. It's never mistaken in the right or wrong it's telling you to do. The right stuff that it's telling you to do is never wrong. And it says in faithfully obeying its dictate, its voices.
Well, I guess my problem is that I hear something in there sometimes, and sometimes I can recognize it as my conscience when it's obvious that I shouldn't be doing that thing. But sometimes there's still a question whether or not what I'm thinking about doing is right or wrong. You know, it's not really sure. But then you have voices in there. My thing is, how do I know that this is the conscious, or is it something else? Is it the spirit, or is it, I ain't gonna say the free will, but is it something else that's in there that's talking to me?
Well, 16 says, and that's next, as you understand, to hear that voice clearly requires preparation and concentration within oneself. Who practices such obedience in the present times? Ask yourself.
Okay, is that a trick question, or is
So-
that yes or no? Like,
So what it's saying here, yeah, I think it's saying not very
It's a
few
rhetorical
people.
question.
There are very few people. It's saying that you're going to have to learn, concentrate, meditate, pray, how to listen to this.
so that's one thing to be praying for, is how we can better understand our conscience.
Conscious, yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the spiritual. We're not really supposed to pray for ourselves, you know, unless it's for spiritual gifts, and to be able to hear our conscience is one thing we could be praying for, you know, in our daily prayers or whatever. But it says it requires preparation. Now, preparation to me has always come across as learning to live within the law, learning obedience to the scripture, reading, following, and meditating the scripture, and then concentration within oneself. I guess it's just gonna take practice. Like I said, I can hear it. And that's better off than where I was a few years ago. You know, at least I am able to hear something in there.
Yeah, because it's like, you know, you're thinking it's the right thing to do, but you don't know. Is that what you're saying?
Well, yeah, I don't know if it's me thinking or it's that conscious telling me, don't do that, don't do that. You know, and sometimes I go ahead and do it because, you know, was that really the conscious talking to me, or you know, did I just now use my materialism to quiet the consciousness and didn't pay attention to it? Like I said, preparation and concentration, I guess. We're evolving.
Number 17.
The conscious has always manifested itself in man, but man has not achieved the necessary evolution to guide all his life by that divine voice. Man has needed laws, teachings, precepts, religions, and advice for guidance.
Here it's telling us that the conscious has always been there. It's always been made plain and clear that it is the conscious. You know, we're saying that we're having a hard time hearing it, but it's saying that it's always been there. But man has not achieved the necessary evolution to be guided by the conscious. So therefore, we were given laws. We were given precepts. We were given rules. It makes me think of Eve, how when she went and started having conversations with Satan, her conscience would have told her that was not the right thing to do. But she had free will also, and she made the choice to go ahead and finish having conversations with them, to quote unquote bite the apple, and since she did that, since she now the Father has to give us laws because she wasn't obedient to that voice. Now she got to have something, quote unquote, written down for her to follow. Does that make sense? You hear what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean it does. It does, because we can't hear our conscience. Now we got to have a little bit of help as far as laws to tell us right from wrong, teachings to help us, precepts. Even religions have to come in and have to help out as far as, you know, how we are to approach the Father. You know, teaching us how to pray, teaching us to spend time with Him, and other different stuff we learn down at the, you know, out of religions. All of this is standing in as our conscience.
It's sort of like when you're teaching and training your child, you tell them to do a certain thing. You know, I expect you to do this, I expect you to do that. And then you go away, and when you come back, they haven't done it. So now you got to write it down for them. Okay, I want you to clean the kitchen. Do you understand this? Then you go down to the next.
Before that, they kind of knew that they were supposed to be cleaning the kitchen. Their conscience was telling them that they're supposed to be cleaning the kitchen, but they were abusing their free will to do other stuff. I want to go sit down. And so now you have to write out the rules for them, even giving them some type of punishment schedule when they don't. You know, okay, yeah, that's where man is. We have to have, police officers and judges and stuff to help us to understand right from wrong when we don't want to obey the conscience or whatever. You got the police officer that'll straighten us out.
Yeah. 18.
When men come to enter into communion with their spirits, and instead of looking for it outwardly, seek it within themselves, they can hear that gentle, persuasive, wise, and just voice that has always been vibrating within them without being heard. And they come to understand that the conscience is the presence of God, and that it is the true means by which men should communicate with their Father and Creator.
So talk about that verse as relationship with prayer. About communicating with the Father. Because we've started practicing prayer without saying, having like a time where we're silent.
Spiritualistic prayer, where you're not, saying the words out loud.
So would that have something to do with the conscious as well?
Well, remember that usually is a one-directional conversation. Is when we're having prayer, we're kind of just talking to Him. But one of the things that we've asked to do as we evolve in our prayer, we're told to listen. We pray and meditate at the same time. Whereas we may be praying and then we spend some time waiting to hear back from Him. And we've always heard about this gentle and still voice, this calm, still voice. Well, that's what He's talking about here when He says gentle, persuasive, wise, and just voice that has always been there. The voice is the conscience is the voice of God. Sounds like to me that what we hear in there is Him talking to us, and He's talking through the conscience. So
we were just saying, is the conscience a part of the Father? Remember we were just saying that?
Yeah.
And there's the answer. That voice is the Father speaking to us.
It's his way of communicating to us. When it says that it's the soft, still voice, now that goes back to my other question: are there other voices in there? Where maybe you got the Father and then you have the conscience. It sounds like the Father is talking through the conscience.
Yeah, well, I know that you have the conscience and you have virtues, which is goodness, the morals. But the only other voice that could be there, Cliff, is the voice of materialism. What do you think? Or
does it have a voice in there?
Or is it just clouding that conscience?
Too many voices.
Yeah, it could. Or is it just clouding the conscience so that you can't hear the conscience and you're thinking What do you think?
I think we'd be messed up if we had a voice of materialism that was talking to it, like a conscious in there and an anti-conscious. Because now I got an excuse. When I said a few minutes ago that, I'm wanting to do that thing, and yet I hear this voice in there telling me not to,
right.
Or telling me to do something that turns out to be wrong. Well, if I had a voice of materialism in there trying to compete with the voice of the conscious, now I got a good excuse to get stuff wrong. I didn't know which one that was I was listening to.
Well, let's go back to Hermas, where Hermas says, where the shepherd of the angel of repentance say that you have good and evil. The good spirit and the evil spirit.
Okay, without flipping over to the book, is the evil spirit actually talking to us? Is he talking? Did Hermas say he was talking?
I don't know if he said. No, I don't believe it did say that it was talking.
It says, but thou therefore believe the righteous, but give no credit to the unrighteous, for the righteous keepeth the right way, but the unrighteous the wicked way. So it's keeping the way, but he ain't really saying anything.
So I believe it's just the conscious and the virtues. But when your conscience is clouded by materialism, you can't hear it, and therefore your spirit starts wondering. And
all right, look at this right here. Verse 9 says, the angel of righteousness is mild and modest and gentle and quiet. When therefore he gets into thy heart, he immediately talks with thee of righteousness and modesty and chastity and bountifulness and forgiveness and charity and piety. Now is he going to say that the other guy talks to you again? Learn also the works of the angel of inequity, down in verse 11. He is first of all bitter and angry and foolish, and his works are pernicious, and overthrow the service of God. Wherefore these things come into thine heart, thou shalt know by his works that it is the angel of iniquity. No. See, there's some voices going on in there. So how do we know? So is there a difference between the conscious and the angel of righteousness? I believe there is. Well, I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe.
Are they just being called different things?
Yeah, is the angel of righteousness the consciousness, and the angel of inequity the free will, or the angel of our spirit, or our materialism? Maybe that's it. That thing that we've been saying, materialism, is clouding out the good conscious, as exactly the spirit of inequity.
The spirit of iniquity.
That's actually making us want to do evil stuff. It's some complicated class you picked to Tuesday. You're doing good though.
Number 18.
When men come to enter into communion with their spirits, and instead of looking for it outwardly, seek it within themselves, they can hear the gentle, persuasive, wise, and just voice that has always been vibrating within them without being heard. And they come to understand that the consciousness is this presence of God, and that it is the true means by which man should communicate with their Father and Creator.
Okay, we did.
So here's a part here. When you come into communion with their spirits, when men come into communion with their spirits, this is what we're expected in the change. The change, one of the things that that change we hear about in Thessalonians and Corinthians. I think it's 1 Thessalonians 4 or something like that. And talking about us being changed in a moment. Well, becoming in communion with our spirits is one of the things that's going to change. So I guess that's the time period that he's talking about there. And then we'll be able to hear our conscience, because that's another thing that changes too, is that we're actually going to be able to hear
the voice.
Yeah, it's going to be loud, very loud. Whereas now it's quiet. Verse 19 says, all bear my light. Every spirit possesses that grace. Yet, while in some that light has grown and increased to show itself outwardly, and in others it has been latent, hidden, and ignored. Nonetheless, I tell you truly, no matter how backwards a man may be spiritually, he can always distinguish between good and evil. And so you are all responsible before me for your acts.
So that is saying what to you?
To me, we ain't got no excuse.
Yeah, you don't have no excuse. No matter how backwards, or even what you say, even mental. Would you say mental?
What do you mean?
If a person have a mental disorder?
They still got a conscience.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe they do. They still have a conscience. they just may be, well, I ain't gonna say easier for them to ignore it, because we're all ignoring it to certain degrees.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like we talking about maybe the guy that's, you know, driving down the highway shooting random drivers and such like that.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, he still knows he ain't supposed to be
doing that. Yeah.
You know?
So we're all responsible, and like you said, there are no excuses.
No excuses for it, yeah. He says, all bear his light. Every spirit possesses that great, yet while in some that light has grown and increased to show itself outwardly, in others it has been latent and hidden. Yeah, and even though it's ignored in others, no matter how backwards a man may be spiritually, he can always distinguish between good and evil. Mm-hmm. You know, so that whole thing about pleading insanity,
right,
that goes out the window. You still knew. You might have been crazy, but you still knew the difference between right and wrong.
Right and wrong. Mm-hmm.
Verse 20 says, I must tell you that responsibility grows in you according to the development of your understanding, for you are increasingly more sensitive to the dictates of the conscience. So the more we read the Bible, the more we understand the covenant, the laws, the precepts, the more we follow the rules, the more conscious individuals we become. More sensitive to the dictates of the conscience. Mm-hmm. So, you know, instead of pleading crazy, we should be pleading biblically ignorant.
Right.
Your Honor, I never did read my Bible. You know, I never knew I wasn't supposed to do that.
You think that's gonna get you off?
No, it may with the judge, with some judge that, you know, ain't never heard that argument before. I give you a little bit of credit just for coming up with that unique idea.
Yeah.
It's still not gonna go past. It's still not gonna get past the Father, because you know, our conscience is still there talking to us. Mm-hmm. It was still there.
21.
I want you to know that among all the creatures of this world, you are the favorite being, gifted with a spirit and a conscience. I have given you freedom of will so that you may take by your own choice the straight road that leads to me. It is not a flowery path that I offer you, but that of prayer, penitence, and struggle. And along that road, your conscience will guide you.
So that is saying that human beings is favorite. Mm-hmm. The favorite being opposed to animals, mm-hmm. or nature.
We're the favorites here on earth.
We're the favorites here on earth, and He has given us this, given our spirit this conscience to help us to travel this road, and He's saying that it's not a flowery road.
Yeah, it's not.
But,
yeah,
it's not
it's not all flowers and stuff that we're going after when we seek His path. When we try to go where He wants to go, there's some rough spots in there too,
But the conscience will guide us.
But the conscience is going to guide us, yeah. Mm-hmm. Prayer, penance, and struggle along that road, your conscience will guide you. All right. 22 says, what will become of the spirit deprived of its freedom of will? In the first place, it will not be a spirit, and therefore it will not be a creation worthy of the supreme being. It will be something like those machines that you create, something without its life of its own, without intelligence, without will, without aspirations. Talking about drones, talking about androids, talking about fake humans.
Yeah, this reminded me of Frankenstein.
Yeah?
Yeah, but he had a conscience, remember, because he would do good and he would do bad,
I don't remember
whatever.
Frankenstein.
Yeah. But
Frankenstein wasn't. I don't remember him too much.
Yeah. So, but it talks about, like you said, androids
or robots.
Robots, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
So now the robot can do stuff, but he doesn't. What is he missing? Free will. He doesn't have free will.
Right. Or conscious.
Or conscious. You know, when, for the guys who like be looking up stuff on YouTube, there was some robots, some artificial intelligence robots that actually decided they want to go into kill all of the people working with them. They killed like 29 people over there in Japan. You can look it up, robots that killed 29 people in Japan.
This is real? This is a real story?
Yeah, in the last few years, these robots, they was militarized robots, decided that they were going to take over. And yeah, they even created like their own little bullet, whereas, of course the humans didn't give them any bullets to shoot. And so they kind of made up their own bullets and started shooting them at people. And then when they finally did shut them down, they shut them off and kind of defeated them, they found at least one of them on the internet, surfing the web, trying to learn how to modify itself. And it actually was making itself better in order to, so that they wouldn't be able to shut it down again. So this technology that we have today, is getting very, very sophisticated. But like we said, it doesn't have a conscience and it doesn't have free will. Or does it? It almost seems like it's like the thing had free will, because like I said, they decided that they didn't want to be defeated anymore. They didn't want to obey, and they actually started going after the humans. And they, like I said, they killed like 29 people.
Oh wow. 23.
I gave free will to man, but if in his confusion he complains about it, I will tell him that I always gave him the ability to choose and comprehend. At the same time, I reveal my law to him, which is the way not to stumble or become lost, and kindled the light of his conscience, which is the inner beacon that illuminates the way of the spirit and leads to eternal life.
So both of them work together, the conscience and the law.
Yeah, well, sounds like even though we had a conscience, it wasn't strong enough to guide man.
Right.
And so we had to have a law.
Yeah.
And so, but that's going to all change. There's a part in the Bible that that people talk about how there's coming a time when the law is not going to matter anymore. You've heard that in your church. The Reverend Pastor Deacon Dr. Dove loves to teach that, because he uses it to back up his idea that we don't supposed to have the law now. But what he's referring to is a futuristic event where we're all changed. And when and I'm understanding from this class, is that once our conscience becomes dominant again, then we won't need the law anymore.
Right.
You won't need some hardcore, hard and fast rules to tell you when you're supposed to do that and when you're supposed to do this, because you'll have a conscience.
You'll be able to hear it.
Yeah, we'll be able to hear it and know and be able to tell that voice, and now it makes sense.
Yeah, it's the voice of the Father talking to you that you can hear audibly. It's sort of like Moses when he heard the Father, instead of rules and regulations, precepts on a piece of paper that this is how you have to do this.
There's a part in the Bible that says there coming a time when no man would have to go to church or would have to listen to a preacher tell them, right from wrong, that everybody's going to know him for ourselves. And, like you said, that's that 1 Thessalonians 4 change that we hear. That what humanity is about to go through is, our conscience is going to become dominant. Verse 24 says, why does sin exist and evil dominate, and why do wars break out? Because man does not listen to the dictates of his conscience and badly uses his free will. So it is doing whatever.
Yeah. So it's saying that evil exists because we don't listen to our conscience, the voice of the Father.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like now money or the fear of going to jail is the only real thing that's guiding man now. There's nothing else, telling man what to do. Other than, whether or not we're going to be hungry or in prison or whatever.
Yeah. And 25.
The world is not listening because the voices of these material forms by which I communicate have little reach. It is then the voice of the conscious, which is my wisdom, that speaks to humanity, surprising many who, enveloped in their selfishness, are deaf to the call of that voice. and attentive only to adulation and earthly adoration, enjoying their greatness and power.
Here he's talking about how materialism, our bodies, can't communicate with the conscious. We can't communicate with the conscious because I want to say because of materialism, because it can't.
Well,
It's saying that it has
a
little
spiritual
reach.
being. Yeah, it only affects your spirit. It doesn't affect your hearing, and all. You can't audibly hear it through your body at all. What it says, the world is not listening because the voices of the material forms,
Bodies by which I communicate have little reach. Is that what it's saying? Material form. It is in the voice of the conscious, which is my wisdom that speaks to humanity. So it seems to me that it's saying that he can't communicate to us audibly. So.
Oh, wait a minute. He's talking about humans right there. Because the voices of these material forms about which I communicate have little reach. He's talking about people. See, from up
like
until
pastors and
up until 1950,
prophets.
he was like talking through
Prophets
prophets
and stuff. Yeah.
But they have little reach. I mean, you basically have to be in earshot of them, you know. But and so that's why mankind is not listening. But like we talked about earlier, humanity is expecting a huge change, and in this change, we're going to be able to hear the voice of the conscious then, and then we're going to be listening. Then everybody on the planet is going to be listening.
Right. Yep. So that is the end of the importance of the conscious and the free will. I guess I would say stay tuned for the next.
Yeah, we learned a lot out of this section as far as consciousness and how it plays a part in in our lives, and how it doesn't play a part in our lives too. But we're going to go through this change, and it's going to become more dominant. So, all right, well, I guess we'll pick up in the next class. Shalom.
Shalom.